to get their share of speaking, so sorry about that. But I wish everyone well here to the meeting for February 2022. The council meeting is open to the public due to the easing of public health order restrictions. There's no QR codes required, and wearing of mandatory masks will end at, this will be the last meeting unless something changes. The council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded and published online via council's website. To those present in the meeting today, by participating in the public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and/or General Manager have the authority to pause the live stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory or otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Participants are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. So we would normally go to what's on the sheet, but you're happy to move a motion of urgency, yes, Councillor?
Yes.
I'll exceed that once you move it. Go. Yes. Move it to bringing in a 10-minute public forum.
Yes.
And we, so we could move to bring it forward. Councillor Allgate, Councillor Page, all those in favour? So in favour is Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Page, Councillor Turley, Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Hewitt, Councillor Chandler, Deputy Mayor Hickey and Tom Kennedy. Against, Councillor Brown. So we'll just give 10 minutes. We'll go back to GG Barb. You just want to keep it fairly brief because we still only got 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right. On the first council meeting this year, I already mentioned that I would have loved to see a motion to the local government conference in New South Wales regarding the intake of refugees. This was not about Broken Hill. This was about the region to increase our economy and our population. But there is another conference, and I saw that there are 2 motions that council put towards that conference regarding housing, and I commend that. But I really think we need to reiterate with the opportunity to put the case forward for regional Australia to seek Australian government's partnership in resourcing the intake of humanitarian visa holders. We know that mining activity is on the rise in our region, but will we have the workforce necessary, both underground and in our businesses, when things really take off? We've already missed the boat with a shortage of staff needed in the next 3 months here. So I would urge council to be visionary and really plan for the future. The other matter, also, Mr. Mayor, you said that you couldn't, well, my motion in January was rejected, and you said that we needed more time to consider it before we put it to council, and we also needed community consultation. So I really do hope that we will soon have a transparent community consultation about growing our population and economy through the intake of refugees in this city. Regarding the wage management conference in Coffs Harbour, given the alarming figures revealed in the December quarterly budget review in item 11, the cost of attending this conference is around $3,500 per person, and I'm sincerely hoping that the council sends only 1 delegate from the Health and Building Standing Committee to the conference, and that other interested councillors watch it live on live streaming at a reduced cost. So that's about all. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Gigi. Nick, if you just have a bit more, and then we'll go to up the back. We'll just wait for Nick to finish his, and then
Yeah, so just getting back onto the rates, I think the border for ratepayers should be, I think the border should be extended to, you know, the town is growing, businesses, all businesses are coming in and starting up, and they're just looking for ways to get out of paying rates. So I think the border needs to be extended. Also, the rate should also be based on if the land is vacant or if the land's getting used. I don't see why someone with a vacant land block that's planning to develop it should be paying as much rates as the Coles complex, and if not more. Same with vacant houses. I think the rate should be less if there's no house and stuff like that on there. So I think the rates need to be reviewed if possible. And also just back onto that debt collection, it's a lot of expense for local businesses to pursue a statement of claim, especially travelling to Sydney. Quite a lot of money spent in businesses travelling to Sydney to attend a statement of claim. I know there was one served 4 weeks ago for quite a lot of money. That business person now has to pay the legal costs on that statement of claim, and they also need to travel to Sydney because that's where the Sydney lawyer is. So another few $1,000s in travel costs. So I think the executive collections need to be stopped straight away. I know it's been reviewed by council, and I think more focus needs to be given to try and work out a solution with ratepayers and use some local lawyers and try and keep the money in town. Also, just with the gateway sign, I think now's a good time to get rid of them gateway signs. The scrap value is very high at the moment, probably the highest it's ever been. So we should get a good dollar for it, help pay for some better ones. Thank you.
I should have said, just state your name for the record. Sorry about that. So it was GG Barb, I think I said, and Nick Bobos. Just state your name for them.
Okay, my name's Lorraine Robertson. I've been in touch with the council over the water that's going to come out of the Imperial Lake when it's finished. And I just wanted to ask the General Manager whether there's any answers to the letters and things that I've put into the council about the condition of the creek.
Thank you. No, we haven't received any responses yet, but we are chasing it up, and we'll make sure we get a response and work with Essential Water and the Department of Land and Water to get an outcome.
Yeah, Noel, I've been trying to get to the Lands and Water one through Roy Bartlett for about 3 months, and they don't seem to want to answer him. So is that where you're going to?
You'll probably find that the council will get a lot more success because we're the statutory authority around all this, so they have an obligation to, they can't not talk to us, put it that way. And just a quick question, Lorraine. So were you consulted about the lowering of that dam wall that could cause significant impacts on your property, the property across the road, or do you know that anyone in that area was consulted with by Essential Water about lowering that dam?
No, the only time I've ever done anything about the dam was when I went to your meeting to save the Imperial Lake back, 18 months, 2 years ago.
So you've been since told that there could be a significant flooding now that the wall's been lowered. Is that right?
That's what I took Chris Ford for the other day and showed him, and I think he got back to you.
Yeah. So Chris Ford, for everyone, is a council employee that's gone out and had a look at what's happening in the creeks below the Imperial Lake.
Yeah, well, the trouble is all the water comes from South Broken Hill and all the Menindee, you know, when the Menindee Road was shut the other day.
So they've got two things. It comes from the north side and the south side.
We never got any rain.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I've never been consulted. I've put letters into you for Bridget Staker and Dot Staker that live out there. Bridget, and we're just worried that if Well, even when they finish the Imperial Bank and they let the water out of that, what they got hurled out the back, that still will be nearly enough water to come over without a rain.
Yeah. So thank you, Lorraine.
Okay.
We will continue to liaise. Well, Jay will continue to liaise with you, and he will keep you well up to date. You'll be much well informed than you have in the past.
Okay, that'd be good. Thank
you. Thank you to all those people that took the time to speak. So there was nil requests from councillors to attend via video conference. Nil apologies for granting leave or leave of absence. Could I call on Councillor Boland to do the prayer?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council. Direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Call on Councillor Gallagher for the welcome to country, acknowledgement of country.
Yes, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners upon the land upon which we meet and pay respect to those elders past, present and emerging.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Do we have a councillor willing to move and second the minutes for confirmation? We have a mover? Move Councillor Allgate, second Deputy Mayor Hickey. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Disclosures of interest. We have nil disclosures of interest. Does anyone have a late thought of a disclosure? No. Remains nil disclosures. We have a mayoral minute. This is a proposed motion to the Australian Local Government Association, New South Wales, regarding affordable housing. I won't.
Sorry, I just realised with the late motion that I will have a conflict of interest.
I don't think you do have a conflict of interest under the rules,
Okay.
Councillor Turley. As a
I'll just
councillor
note
as a councillor and on a body that is a council body, you're not precluded from being. It's the same if we're on 355 committees or anything else. You don't have to go out when you're dealing with matters that in your position as a councillor, but it's up to you, but you don't need to.
Thank you.
Yep. So the following motion was submitted to the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly by the deadline for motions being the 25th of March 2022, along with the supporting council resolution, and submitted for consideration as a possible late motion of Local Government New South Wales Special Conference held in Sydney on the 28th to the 2nd of March. Along with the supporting council resolution, please note the motion of the special conference closed on the 30th of January, and late motions may not be accepted. The motion being that the National General Assembly, Local Government New South Wales calls on the federal government to create a regional tax incentive to equalise the current remote area of fringe benefit tax concessions from 50% to 100%, to enable all employees residing in the regional remote communities across Australia access to the same allowance as their employees. The tax incentive will assist to drive regional location to smooth out volatility of housing prices, with the aim to address the regional housing affordability crisis across Australia, especially in regional areas affected by boom-bust cycles of mining industry. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Page, got your hand up first, seconded. So this motion, for people that don't fully understand it, and probably for members of the press and gallery members, what it essentially does is allow people to rent and buy houses and other stuff, businesses, rent and buy houses with their pre-tax income as opposed to their after-tax income. So, for example, if someone was on $80,000 and they were paying $40,000 off a mortgage, instead of being taxed on the $80,000 and then paying off their mortgage, they pay off their mortgage out of the $80,000 and then taxed on what's left. So they'll be taxed on the $40,000. So it's a significant savings. People will be able to pay off their mortgages a lot quicker. And what it will do is it will encourage people that move to Broken Hill, because it's only if you live and work in Broken Hill. It's not if you work in Broken Hill and live somewhere else. It's to encourage people to live here. So it's not for investors or anything like that. So what it has the potential to happen is some of those people that would fly in and fly out, it's well worth their while to come to Broken Hill and buy a house in Broken Hill, because they'll be able to pay it off probably 10 years before they'd be able to pay it off somewhere else. For example, it flows on further to potentially nurses who may only want to come for 2 years, but because of the system that comes in, they might stay for 10 years and longer, because they'll be able to pay that house off in 10 years at a pre-tax amount as opposed to an after-tax, which this will result in probably more benefit to regional mining communities than any other pre-existing policy that's ever been put forward. It's a policy that this council supports, many other councils support. I hope the national local government and New South Wales local government associations support it. I hope that all members of the community, when they're talking about it, talk it up, because it is starting to spread. It's being mentioned everywhere, not just around town. It's starting to get its way outside town. And it's something that, if it does happen, we will have no shortage of police, teachers, miners, nurses, or any other employee in the city. It is a potential boom that can be matched by nothing else. So I'll open to the floor, and any speakers against first. I will allow brief comments if anyone wants to make any brief comments.
Mayor Kennedy, can I please make a comment and ask a question, please?
Yep.
The fridge benefit, would it be extended to local businesses, say mining companies, other local businesses that could purchase houses on behalf of staff that are moving to town or currently in town, and allow those staff to pay the houses off through the employees, such as in the old days, I think it was the Zinc Corporation housing scheme?
Yes, they can, Councillor Boland. They're actually able to do that at the as it is now, and what that's caused is the mining companies, in not so much in Broken Hill but in other mining areas, they buy the houses at inflated prices up to 800,000 because they want to bring people there, when what it does then is make it unaffordable for the people that are living in the town, and before you know it, you no longer have the people that run restaurants or anything else. They're forced out of town. So it can be done that. What actually this proposal allows is not only can the mining companies do that because they're companies, so can individuals. So that's the beauty of what's being proposed. No further speakers. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously, and thank you, councillors. I think it will be, as I said, a really, really positive. The second mayoral minute is the Broken Hill CBD revitalisation project, revised project scope and fundraising scope and funding submission. That the mayoral minute number 322 dated February 23, 22 be received, that council submit a variation in funding to the federal and state government for the funding achieved for the library archive and revitalisation project as outlined in the mayoral minute. The council note council's contribution to be made up to $6 million that has already been allocated and spent in council's capital budget this financial year in relation to the CBD revitalisation project. The council overall expenditure in the relation to the library and CBD revitalisation project has reduced by $6 million in accordance with the mayoral minute on the 12th of January 2022. Do we have a seconder for that?
Second that.
Seconded, Councillor Allgate. Any speakers for? I'll briefly speak to it so that councillors understand it, members of the public, the media. So what we've in essence done is the proposed library cost to build the actual library and archives has gone down to about just under $12 million. Some of the additional things that were planned in there will be done in-house. which is going to have reduction. Council will match the federal grant by a 2.9 million of state grant and made up by council's $6 million, $2 million has already been spent in the CBD, and we're hoping to spend another $4 million. That $4 million, when it's spent, will go out to the public and councillors to determine the projects. There's $21 million, I believe, that was earmarked in the original proposal to do CBD upgrades. So what this is about is a much smaller library archive proposal, where the current library, the front section, will be redeveloped so that it is rubbed back to the original fire station that is there. So we'll be able to expose some of those walls. It'll be used as the archive upstairs, downstairs, and at the back there'll be a brand new library that goes back to the town hall facade. So it'll be one complete thing. So the library itself be funded completely from grant funding as opposed to council's contributions. Anyone want to speak against it? No? Brief comment? No.
Yeah, I'd make a comment. Mayor.
With comments, just really short, because it's not debating.
I think, as far as I'm concerned, we're on the right track. We've changed. We're going to provide a new library. We're going to provide adequate space and facilities for a true archives section, and we're going to do it all within the costs that are already proven, and that's the big point as far as I'm concerned.
That's all.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. Just briefly, but following a tour yesterday of the library, we can all see that it's gone well past its use-by date. We have to do something to retain a library in Broken Hill. And I'm really happy to see that we can do it within the figures that you're talking now. And thanks to General Manager Jay and those that have put together a new scheme to get it back to those figures, that I think it's really positive for the town.
Righto, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Notices, motions nil, rescission motions are nil, reports from delegates are nil. We now go on to reports. So for the gallery, these are the reports that are in the business paper. It's about 1 to 28. These are what we're going to. It is on page, so on about page 16 it starts. That's where the reports are. So item 1. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown.
Sorry, Mayor Kennedy, I wasn't sure where to fit this in or what to call it, but it's just a question on the agenda. We dealt with the disclosure of interest returns, but that's actually different from the conflict of interest, which doesn't seem to be on the agenda. Those disclosure of interest that item referred to the returns from the new councillors, but we haven't, there should be an item 2 for councillors to indicate if they have conflicts of interest with any of the items on the business sheet. It's just not there this time.
So item 6 that I read out, Councillor Brown, was disclosure of interest, which includes your conflicts of interest and your pecuniary interests. And I asked councillors, there's nil written here. Does anyone else have a conflict or pecuniary interest?
I thought, Mr. Mayor, that just referred to that.
No, that's item 1 of this report. So this is the form we always have. So if it's got a conflict of interest, whatever, it goes on here. So it's just referred to as item 6, disclosures of interest. There was none written in there, and I asked councillors, has anyone thought of a disclosure to come forward? And there wasn't any. Does anyone have a disclosure of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest in any of the items? No. So thank you, Councillor Brown. So report number 1, disclosure of his interest returns. So this is the first report. This is about for our new councillors. Do we have a mover and a seconder for that report? Moved Councillor Page, seconded Councillor Gallagher. Any speak to that? Would like to speak to that, Councillor Page? Anyone against that? No. I'll put it to the councillors. All those in favour? I declared that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 2 is delegations of functions. So just for the gallery and the media, the delegation of functions is what the council delegates its functions to the general manager, mayor and other things. So they include a whole raft of things and people can read those in the business paper. Do we have a mover for that? Item 2?
Move the recommendation.
Moved, Councillor Allgate. We have a seconder, Councillor Page. Speak to a Councillor Allgate.
No, it's all there, Mayor Kennedy. I think there might be some vacant positions that still need to be adopted.
This is the
Oh, no, so that's the next.
yeah,
Sorry, yeah. No, but
so
no, it's in the, everything's in the report.
anyone speak against the motion? No. So it's a very, just for the gallery, it's a very important thing because this is how council operates. So even though councillors delegate the authority, as councillors were explained in a briefing this year, even though we delegate, we still hold the power of the delegation. So at any time, those delegations can be used by us as well. So keep in mind for councillors and the general public when talking to councillors. So that was carried unanimously. Item 3, appointment of delegates to committees. So there is, so we have a mover for that.
Move the recommendation.
Moved,
Mayor-
Councillor Allgate,
Mayor Kennedy.
seconded Councillor Gallagher. Happy to second that.
And that we invite councillors to nominate to the various committees that haven't been filled up at this stage.
So happy to accept that, Councillor Gallagher.
Yes, Mayor Kennedy.
So what we're talking about is, so there's a number there that are vacant. If councillors want to look through them and contact the mayor's office, will put them in there rather than put councillors under pressure tonight to fill those positions. You like to speak in favour of that, Councillor Allgate, or?
No, not really, Mayor Kennedy. It's all outlined in the thing. There are quite a few areas where there are vacancies, but I'm sure they'll be filled up in the manner that you've spoken of.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone against the motion? Yes, Councillor Brown.
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, I think I'm more in sympathy with what Councillor Allgate suggested first. I think I don't think it would take too long to fill some of those gaps. I think we've already left those committees in limbo for 6 months, or it will be 6 months. So I think we need to get things going and get some of those. I mean, there aren't all that many, maybe 3 or 4. And if we don't fill them tonight, I don't feel any pressure to, nominate for things that I, don't want to. So I don't think it's going to take long to try and fill those gaps, or at least as many as possible tonight.
Councillor
Mayor
Allgate.
Kennedy, I'd be happy to include that.
Councillor
If we do it
Gallagher.
tonight.
Yes, Mayor Kennedy. Got no issues with that.
I'll put it, well, I won't put the motion. If councillor's happy to go through it, we'll go through it and then we'll, and Leisa will get a copy of who added and then we'll go through it. Yeah. So the Works Committee is filled. The Health and Building is filled, and the Policy in General. The Community Strategic Roundtable is filled. Alma Oval Committee is filled. Broken Hill Heritage Committee, there is 1 councillor on that. There's an opportunity for 4.
I'll nominate for that
Councillor
committee.
Turley, yep. Anyone, any other councillors?
I'll nominate for that.
Councillor
Mayor Kennedy.
Boland? Anyone else? We've got 2 councillors for that. Did you get those, Leisa? There's still 2 empty ones. They can be filled at a later stage, but I'm sure the 3 councillors that are involved will be able to handle that. So the Broken Hill Regional Art Gallery, we have 2. The BIU Band Hall Community Committee, we need a councillor for that. Any councillor interested in the BIU Band Hall? Councillor Allgate, thank you. Friends of the Flora and Fauna, Barrier Ranges is filled. Memorial Oval is filled. We only needed one councillor, but I'm glad to see there's two. I've got no problem with two. Does any councillors have any problem with two councillors? Norm Fox Sporting Committee, same thing, two councillors. Does anyone have any problem with that? No. Picton Sports Ground, we have a vacancy on that. Any councillors interested in the Picton Oval? Councillor Gallagher
Yeah.
seemed to put his hand up there
Down the road.
reluctantly. We'll put
Just
him
down
on
the
that.
road, so yeah, I'll take
Yep.
it.
No worries. The Australian Floodplain Association, there's an alternate position. Is anyone interested in the Councillor Brown? Happy for that. So then we have the Australian Mining Cities Alliance, the Audit Committee filled, Asset Naming Committee. We have two on that. There's still three short. Any councillors interested in that? It's not
I'm happy to nominate
Councillor
for that.
Turley. Yep. Anyone else? So we have three councillors for that, which is good. Lead Reference Group filled, Liquor Accord filled, Broken Hill Traffic Committee filled. Club Grants, we have a vacancy on that. Is anyone interested in that? Councillor Page. That's takes the two. The Community Assistance Panel, that's fine. Companion Animals, fine. Country Mayors Association, fine. Disability Inclusion Action Plan Working Group, fine. O'Neill Memorial Park Precinct, fine. Far West Joint Organisation. Just for councillors' information, that committee may go into hibernation. Yeah, so just for everyone's, we were hoping to continue to get funding to run that, but it's well short, as I'm sure Councillor Turley would be able to let everyone know. The General Manager's Performance Appraiser, we have 5. Review Committee, sorry. Library and Cultural Precinct Steering Committee, we have 2. Menindee Lake Stakeholders Group, do we have a councillor interested in being in the Menindee Lake State? Councillor Brown, thank you, Councillor Brown. Murray-Darling Association, we have 2 councillors. Reconciliation Plan Working Group, we have 2 councillors.
I'm happy to put my hand up for
Turley,
that.
thank you. Tidy Towns Working Group, we have 2, that's filled. Oh, there's the last page. Western Divisions Councils, 2 councillors, there's 1 short. Does any councillor, we've got Councillor Gallagher, anyone else interested in that? Councillor Brown. Western New South Wales Mining Resource Development Task Force is filled. Volunteers Working Group, we have 1 position left on that, if anyone wants to be on that. No, we've got 3 anyway, so that's a good number. So it's in your business paper, councillors. Who's on those? Could we have a move? Are you happy to accept all those new positions, Councillor Allgate? Councillor Gallagher, happy seconded?
Certainly.
Certainly. Anyone against that? No. Put it to the vote. That's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. The draft councillor support policy, do we have a move? That's item 4 in the agenda for the gallery. Does any councillor move? Councillor Page, seconded. Councillor Brown. Show of hands is probably better, councillors. I pick it up quicker than the speaking. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Page? Any speakers against? All those in favour? Declare it carried. Thank you, unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 5, alteration of schedule for standing committees because of Easter. We have a mover for that. Moved Councillor Gallagher, seconded Councillor Hewitt. You'd like to speak to that, Councillor Gallagher?
No, it's self-explanatory.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Anyone against that? All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 6, the Office of Local Government Consultation and Councillor Misconduct Framework. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Boland. You like to speak to that, Councillor Allgate?
Yeah, yes, Mayor Kennedy, I'd love to speak on it. This is an opportunity for the council to, as far as I'm concerned, to rectify quite a lot of things within the code of conduct, the model code of conduct, and the way it's implemented and the way it's processed. Having been one of 2 councillors who have been regularly targeted with code of conduct complaints, I have suffered quite a bit in terms of the manner in which some of these have been handled, particularly one. I think there's, I mean, if you look at the framework is, or the review as part of the framework is predicated on the fact that it will be upholding the virtues, democracy and procedural fairness and equity. They are pretty important aspects, and they're aspects that I believe are often infringed. I've said many times from the floor of the council before, both in defence of code of conduct that I've received, and also at seminars and workshops. As far as I'm concerned, and it's a belief that's well supported throughout the industry, that the code of conduct is currently able to be used and being used as a tool to actually attack councillors, whether it be because of a political difference in ideology or a personal bias or any other reason. This particular code gives the opportunity to somebody who wants to cause another councillor grief or put them through the ringer. It gives them an opportunity to do that. And sadly, in terms of codes of conduct lodged by people other than councillors, whether by staff, by members of the public or whoever, they do so in total anonymity. And as far as I'm concerned, if a person has a legitimate complaint, irrespective of whether they're a councillor or a staff member or a member of the public, if the complaint is legitimate and they believe in that complaint, they should be named. That goes directly against all of the teachings of the code as it currently is, but it gives the opportunity to people who want to cause mischief the opportunity to lodge a claim, not be criticised, attacked or anything else, but the potential to cause whoever the complainant is, whoever the defendant is, cause them grief. I don't believe that's the way that the code of conduct should work. And, you know, there are a lot of things that need to be changed. If you look at with councillors, if a councillor lodges a complaint against another councillor, that councillor, their identity is normally divulged. In other words, councillors normally are named if they lodge a complaint against another council. I think that's the way it should be across the board. I know that councillors can lodge a complaint and then complain to the conduct reviewer. If it goes to the conduct reviewer, they can appeal to the conduct reviewer to have their name withheld. And if they have good reasons for that, perhaps that's fine. I think if a code of conduct complaint is lodged, the person who lodged it, irrespective of where they are from, whether at council, staff, outside or whatever, if they're not prepared to, if the complainant is not prepared to stand up and take the flak for what they've done, well, I don't think that it should be doing it at all. This ability for people to anonymously complain about the actions or misdeeds or misconduct or whatever of a councillor is, I think that's just totally flawed. Now, what concerns me more, and this concerns me personally because I was the subject of it, the system is that when a code of conduct complaint is lodged, it's lodged to the general manager. If it's about a councillor, it's lodged to the general manager. The general manager then either decides that it's of merit and will.
Keep on going, sorry, Councillor.
The general manager will decide whether the complaint has merit or not. If it has merit, obviously it will be through the council system. It will be probably farmed out or is farmed out in this case to a conduct reviewer. The conduct reviewer will normally interview the complainant and the defendant and get both versions. The conduct reviewer often also talks to the general manager and the mayor, and they make a decision on, or they make they make recommendations and findings to the council. The council then considers those recommendations and findings and makes a decision. Once that decision is made, if it's not in favour of the defendant has the opportunity to appeal that code of conduct by lodging an appeal with the Office of Local Government. Once the local government considers the appeal and advises the council of a decision, whether the decision is that, whether this decision confirms that the person, the defendant, is either guilty or not guilty, that advice comes to the council, and then the council make a final decision. In my case, and I want to specify this because it's always hidden in the last council, and I was the subject of a complaint. I was found guilty by the conduct reviewer. The council found me guilty. I appealed to the Local Government Association, who in their investigation found out that the council withheld critical information that would have totally changed the decision of the conduct reviewer if in fact that information had been provided. In other words, because the council withheld information, whether it be deliberate or by chance, doesn't matter. The fact is, I was found that it was found that I was not necessarily guilty because the decision would have been totally different had all of the information been presented. So in that sense, I appealed to the council to review their previous guilty decision. It went to the council meeting, and the council vote was 4 votes all. 4 votes in my favour, 4 votes against me. The mayor of the council at that time used her casting vote to vote against me, even though and in spite of the information that was provided by the Office of Local Government, who we are always told we must take notice of and follow their instructions. When you talk about
Councillor Allgate, I'll just
Righto.
let you know it's been going for 7-8 minutes.
When you talk about procedural fairness and things like that, equity, democracy, there is no such thing as democracy in that decision. And that situation, I'm sure I'm not the only one that suffered as a result of that, and that situation should be deleted or not able to be repeated in this framework. Yeah. And I think we should point that out. The standing committee who's going to deal with it should point those things out.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Do we have any speakers against? Councillor Brown?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, I've really got a question. I don't want to speak against because I do.
You're
but
I'm quite
if I
happy
can
to have a
ask a
comment if
question.
you like,
well,
councillor
it's a question
Brown.
about the process. Well, it's a question about how the standing committees will operate. I'm just assuming that any delegation to any of the standing committees will come to council first.
Yeah.
Before in each case. I mean, as I say, I'm not against this.
No.
I'm really just asking a question about how the committees are going to operate and what the
in the way
process will
they
be.
used to, councillor Brown. So really they'll just be putting they'll be working on getting it and then putting a recommendation to the council as a whole to accept it. So anything those committees come up with will come to the full council for the decision. So their role will be recommendations. So they'll have a recommendation on the way, how they believe that our submission will be, and then it'll go up to the council to finalise, accept it or change it. So if that makes it more clear for not just you, but also members of the other councillors and members of the gallery. Any speakers against? No speakers against. I put it to the councillors. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. Just for the gallery, the code of conduct is not just an issue at the Broken Hill Council, it's an issue around the whole of the state of New South Wales. Many councils face the same problems that our local council faces, and it does cost the community a considerable amount of money to do this. I would be pretty sure that councillors on our council, we will formulate our policies to make sure that things are resolved probably well before they get to that point. So just a bit of feedback for the councillors and the community. We are a council that intends to work closely with the community and each other. So thank you. National General Assembly of Local Government. It's called for motions. We've had one for, no, we've had one from the mayoral minute. Do we have a mover for that? Moved Councillor Page, seconded Councillor Turley. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Page? Thank you, Councillor Page. Any speakers against? No. So if any councillors do have a motion they want submitted and they believe it, we'll hold a special meeting. So if councillors are interested in getting a motion to council, please you have that right. So all those in favour, declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item number 8, National Assembly of Local Government to be held in Canberra on June 22nd. Do we have a mover for that? Moved Councillor Hickey, seconded. You're moving as written, Councillor Hickey?
No.
Oh,
No, sorry, Mayor Kennedy. I wanted to move that with the change to.
okay.
If I could. One, that Broken Hill City Council report 3422 dated February 8, 2022 be received. And 2, that the council be represented at the 2022 National General Assembly of Local Government in Canberra, June 19 to 22 by Mayor Kennedy, Deputy Mayor Hickey, General Manager Nagle and Councillor Chandler. And 3, that the councillors will quite prepared to share a vehicle rather than the costs of flights to and from Canberra for that. If I move that way.
Yeah. Just before you go on, you probably still want to fly with me. Happy to travel, so we'll leave it as it is. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Page. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I would.
Hickey?
Yes, I would, Mayor Kennedy. Following a couple of meetings that Mayor Kennedy himself have had with the Australian Mining Cities Alliance and the More Than Mining Alliance on Skype, it's a really, really important organisation, both of those. And they're having a general meeting just prior to the local government's national meeting at LGA, where you get to meet up with some federal government ministers and the shadow ministers to push for changes in helping mining cities survive, such as the support to live in workers, to live in rather than FIFO workers, and this housing thing that we spoke of earlier. I think it's absolutely important that we go to that meeting and be represented. And they're very, very strong bodies, that both of those bodies that, as I say, they produce 62% of the resources in Australia, and they have good government listening ears. So, yeah, I think it's very important.
Speakers against? Comment, Councillor Page? Quite happy with comment.
Yes,
Short comments.
yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a very beneficial conference to attend. The huge outcomes, the contacts you make, the friendships you make, and you can call any of those people you meet and ask questions and vice versa. So I'm very glad that you are attending this conference, and the benefits will be very beneficial to Broken Hill.
Thank you, Councillor Page. I don't like conferences much. I don't like going out of town, but for this one, because of the mining, I'm willing to accept it. Councillor,
Thanks,
Turley?
Mr.
No?
Mayor.
I thought you were about to. No, you're just picking up your glass.
Oh, sorry, I could just say, Mayor Kennedy, that you may take the opportunity to try and make meetings with the minister and raise this issue around that. And that's one of the benefits of being in Canberra, is all these issues that we have at a federal level, trying to meet with the ministers to raise them with them.
So just for other councillors and members of the gallery, media, the mining related councils is having a meeting before the national conference, and they've arranged meetings with several ministers to try and get this up and running. So their thing was they wanted to have, how many members on the 12? 12 members on the mining related councils. So we want 12 mayors, deputy mayors and general managers in that office with the appropriate minister saying. So it's not so much even the conference, it's for us here in Broken Hill, it's about getting that fringe benefits tax thing over the line. So that's one of our big things. So all those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Do we have a mover for item 9? We'll need a alternate councillor. If someone would like to move that.
Can I move that, Mayor Kennedy?
Councillor Boland.
With a recommendation that Deputy Mayor Hickey be appointed as the alternative.
Yep. We have. Oh, sorry, you would be, you'd probably be a conflict at the moment with your private role. So could we have another councillor for that? Councillor Chandler? You'd like to nominate Councillor Chandler?
I'm happy with that. I nominate Councillor Chandler.
Everything else fine in that, Councillor Boland? Move the rest of it. We have a seconder for that. Councillor Turley. Speak to that, Councillor Boland.
Reading through the report, it looks like an interesting panel and commencing from 2022. Is that correct? So it's a new panel that's commencing, Mayor Kennedy?
It is, Councillor Boland, and just to probably how much we can do with this is going to be a little bit difficult because of the vast distances we have to use and share things, but I'm sure we'll be able to share resources as in more the administrative parts. Is that right? Oh, planning panel. Sorry. Yeah, so there's not that much we do in that, but it should still be good. Thanks, Councillor Boland. Is that all? Councillor Boland?
Sorry, yes, that is all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy.
Any against? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. It's not, you don't have a conflict. It's just if you were on it or was on it. Yeah. Item 11, quarterly budget review. Do we have a mover for that?
Item 10. Did we
Oh,
do
sorry,
item 10?
sorry, councillors. I just skipped one. Broken Hill City Councillor attendance at the Waste Management Conference. We have a
I'll
mover for that.
I'll move a recommendation that's different to what's written.
Councillor Allgate.
Yeah. that item 1 that the report be received, that item 2 and 3 be deleted, and that any councillor interested in attending this conference via Zoom or via online, that they approach the general manager to do so.
So does all councillors understand the moving of that? So no one's going to attend. It'll be attended by Zoom for $490 odd. Do we have a seconder for that? Seconder, Councillor Hewitt. Speakers for?
Question, Mayor
Yes,
Kennedy.
Councillor Brown.
The original recommendation just referred to the members of that standing committee, but since, you know, the costs will be
Yep.
much less, and I mean, it
Yep.
is something that I'm personally interested in, if I could add
Yep.
my name to it.
Well,
as that would be
Councillor
great.
Allgate's thing was all open to all
Yes,
councillors
okay.
because it's Zoom. So just let the general manager know you're interested in. That's the intent of your motion, Councillor Allgate. A seconder for that was Councillor Hewitt. You'd like to speak to that, Councillor Allgate?
Just briefly, I think, as was mentioned by one of the members of the public, there are many conferences that where the council needs to be in attendance, but I don't see the need for this particular one. And for those who are interested, perhaps new councillors might have an interest that they can do so online for, I think, whatever it was, $460.
Yep. Any speakers against? All those in favour? Declared it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 11, the quarterly budget review. You have a mover for that?
I'd move that, Mayor Kennedy.
Councillor Boland, seconder.
Oh,
Councillor Gallagher. Speak to it, Councillor Boland.
Yes, sorry, Mayor Kennedy. Yes, I'd like recommendation number 3, the operating deficit before capital. It seems to be blowing out. It's now at 2.8 million. That's a concern. And also, is there any possible way that councillors can be provided with an A4 and an A3 printed budget set? I know I find it a lot easier to go through budgets with a ruler and an old-fashioned pencil or red pen, and it's a lot easier to understand exactly the position of the council if it's in front of me with a bit of paper and I can write in margins.
You want to add that as a number 5, Councillor Boland?
Yes, please add that as
councillors be
number 5.
provided with that. That's so that you got that, Leisa. You happy to accept that, Councillor Jewett? I think I called you Councillor Hewitt a second ago. Sorry.
Can I make a
You
comment?
happy to accept that?
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
Yeah,
Councillor
Mayor Kennedy.
Allgate. Comments to be kept brief though, less. Yeah.
We've basically, a lot of the councillors come to the decision that line budgets are the only way to overcome 90%, 99% of these problems. If we had line budgets, not only the councillors would understand the budget, but also the community or the members in the gallery would have a far better understanding of what's happened financial wise.
Thanks, Councillor Allgate. Any speakers against? No speakers against. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 14, the strategy, investment strategy. We have a mover for that.
I'll move that.
Moved, Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Boland, scratching his eye. Yes, Councillor Allgate, speak to that.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to it, Mayor Kennedy. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Simon, or the Chief Financial Officer, for the report. It's a very competent, comprehensive report. Pity the printing of it was a little bit of a problem, and some of the pages are not able to be read. Firstly, I think the strategy that's been outlined is a good one, but I do have problems with, and they're historical problems. It's fine. What I feel is that it's fine that we've got term deposits totaling $23,371,839. That's a significant amount of money in the kitty. But what concerns me is that some of that money is made up of the disposal of assets. Not in this council's time, but in previous council's time. For instance, the sale of Shorty O'Neill Village was, to my way of thinking, was a disaster. We sold that. The council sold that village for less than half the value, the licensed value, which is, in many ways is a disgrace. The second thing is that other things that contributed to that 23 million or made part of it or affected it were the sale of the film studio at less than half the amount of money that the council expended on that facility, and the caravan park, which was sold to the lowest bidder instead of the highest bidder. Personally, I really have a problem eternally with the sale of Shorty and O'Neill Village. The village used to bring us in $1.4 million of new dollars in government licence fees, bed licence fees. That $1.4 million in bed licence fees, new money into the town, was of great value. We sold the facility because we were running at a loss, whereas for 20 years we ran it at a profit. All of a sudden, everything changed, and I still have trouble understanding that. What concerns me now is that the 23 million that we have invested, that's fine. And the investment rate that we're getting is certainly better than you and I are getting. The problem is that $23 million is being devalued month by month in terms of the CPI and inflation rate. So that money is costing us money. It might be making money on paper, but over a period of time, it's costing us money, and I'm rather concerned about that because, it's one thing to have money. It's a bad thing to have it and it's costing you money. And I hark back to the previous general manager who told us when we borrowed 2 lots of $10 million that it was free money. Free money, $20 million that was free, that we would do with it what we would do, and it would make money for us. And what's happened? It's cost us a heap of money. And I think in terms of disposal of assets and these so-called free loans is just a load of poppywop.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Speaker against? Comment, Councillor?
Yeah, if I could, Mayor Kennedy, just briefly, and I'd like to back up exactly what Councillor Allgate said. And I think the difference is now there's several business people on the council. As business people, we learn you don't sell your assets, you don't just give them away anyway. And they can always make more money. Some of those things were making 15%, and they're now making, I think, 1.09%, which is just ridiculous. And they were undersold. But I think that as far as a council now, we've got a bit more expertise of financial background of doing that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. No speakers against? Yeah, I found the 1.9% just for the gallery, 1.9% we got return on our investments. Inflation this time is 7%. That means we've had a 6% in real term loss of the money sitting in the bank. We've lost buying power. That was the point of what's happened. Just because you're making money on paper, we actually lost a lot of buying power. So it's not always good. Councillor Allgate, you write a reply? Oh, well, there's no thing, but Councillor Allgate.
You said 1.9%, it's 1.09.
Yeah, 1.09%. Yep. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 13, the investment report. Mover for that. Move Councillor Boland, seconded. Councillor Gallagher. Speak to it, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Again, it looks pretty good in the current environment. I note that the US inflation's hit a 40-year high at 7%, and Australia's inflation The Reserve Bank of Australia, in their statement on monetary policy in November 2021, is predicting Australia's inflation this year at the 5.5%. So there's certainly some risks out there going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Any speakers against? Put it to councillors. All those in favour? None against. I declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 14, the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, independent members. Do we have a mover for that? Moved, Councillor Gallagher. Seconded. Seconded, Councillor Allgate. You like to speak to that, Councillor Gallagher?
No, just being a former member of that committee, you've got some good external people coming on the committee.
Thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Speakers against? No speakers against. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 15, adoption of draft agency information guide. We have a mover for that. Move, Councillor Brown. Seconded. Councillor Jewett. Speak to that, Councillor Brown? No. All those in favour? Declared it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 16, business and industry consultative meetings. If councillors, whoever moves this, if they'd like to read it out, because I think it's people might not know what it's about. So do we have a mover for that? Move, Councillor Hickey. Yep, you move it. Yeah, read it out because, I think you just need to read what you want to move because councillors need to understand what's being written.
Well, I'll move this with some amendments. So one, that the City Council report number 4122 dated January 27, 2022 be received. And two, that council supports Business Far West to deliver business services and education for the Broken Hill and the Far West region. Three, council continues discussion with Business Far West on the delivery of forums and events in partnership. And four, the council notes that council has been invited to have an advisory position on the Business Far West Committee.
Have a seconder for that? You like to speak to that, Councillor Hickey?
Yes, I do. Some of the things in there, and it's following on, I think, from part of the Chamber of Commerce, which has collapsed and gone, and the EDC, which hasn't been up to scratch or doing what we always expected, and now Foundation is backing this group of fairly astute business people that to deliver some of these education and business things that go on. Now, personally, I'd like to see that go to us taking over, or not us, but the foundation or someone taking over the EDC and it becoming part of that. But that's for a future thing. But I think the way this sounds okay, and it should be supported by council.
We have any speakers against? Just a brief rundown for councillors. There was a briefing just on this, and the group that are involved are talking about being an advocate group for businesses, including tourism businesses in town. It has the potential to operate similar to what the Chamber of Commerce did. Hopefully that it is supported by other businesses, and it does start to involve many businesses. There will be public forums and that sort of stuff run. So hopefully it'll be a really good thing. And that was what was presented in a briefing. If councillors would like to hear more about that briefing, then just let the general manager know. I'm sure he'll let you know. And no speakers against? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. Item 17, do we have a mover for item 17?
Yes, I'll move that way. I'd move that with amendments also, and I'll read that also out.
Yep.
Kendi, that the Broken Hill City Council report 5622 dated January 28, 2022 be received. The council notes the Tourism Task Force recommendation of 2014 that resulted unanimous support from tourism operators for the development of an industry-driven tourism organisation for the Far West region, which resulted in the formation of Destination Broken Hill. The council continues to collaborate with the tourist industries. 4, the council notes the establishment of Business Far West and approves seed funding to the extent of $20,000 from the 2021 to 2022 budget to be matched dollar for dollar by Foundation Broken Hill to coordinate business industry advocacy training and development. 5, that the Business Far West provides council with 6 monthly financial reports. 6, the council accepts an advisory position on that Business Far West. 7, the council receives a bi-monthly activity report. 8, that the tourism marketing budget be set to the appropriate standing committees, not for determination. And 9, that the appropriate standing committee investigates tourism management structure and possibly set up an organisation based on the same principles as the former Broken Hill Regional Tourism Association Section 355 committee.
I have a seconder for that. Seconder, Councillor Page. What speak to that, Councillor Hickey?
Yeah, look, most of it, as we'd spoken, and it's a little bit different to this, but I think we need to keep control of the tourism section through a Section 355 committee. I don't think you can put that out there just for, it's got to be, it can't be just, I think it's proven that industry driven or industry controlled doesn't quite work, and it gets some offside. It needs a lot more people involved to it to make that committee a good one. And when you've got numerous walks of life coming into it, I think it's a fairer way of running it. And that's in my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Higgy. We have a second. We have a speaker against. Any speakers against? All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Turley. Yep. Sorry, Leisa. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 18, terms of reference, project steering committee, project consultative group.
I'll move recommendation.
Moved, Councillor Allgate, seconded.
Not the recommendation.
Oh, sorry, go Councillor Allgate.
That the recommendation be that item 1 remain,
Yep.
item 2 remain, and that item 3 there be that read, the council endorses the position of mayor and deputy mayor as council's representatives to the project steering group for the project consultative group, with terms within the terms of reference to allow the chair to invite appropriate stakeholders should the need arise.
So as is, but at an addition of invite.
Yeah.
We can invite on a particular project. You got that, Councillor Leisa? You got that, Leisa? Speak to it. Have we got a seconder for that? Did someone seconded Councillor Page? You'd like to speak to that, Councillor Allgate?
Not really, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Kennedy. It's just an expansion to include that there will be occasions when various sectors have people, stakeholders that might be important to join the committee on odd occasions, particularly in the CBD upgrade and things like that.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Any speakers against? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 19, terms of reference for the Gateway Signage Advisory Committee and costs of replacing gateway signage. Mover,
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Allgate. Move, seconded, Councillor Page. It's too quick for you tonight, Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Allgate, you'd like to speak to it?
No, oh, well, yes, short to a small extent. I think if I refer to the lady who spoke about the signage and the lack of consultation, our team has talked to numerous people, but apart from that, the council, on the night that the decision was made to accept the designs for the gateway signage, there were something like 200 odd people, many of whom were in the gallery, many who couldn't fit in the gallery, that were outside, and there was extreme discontent with the decision that was made at that time, because basically all and sundry were so sympathetic to the local design rather than that from somebody away. And I don't think that sentiment has changed. I think it's strengthened. And, you know, I'd only add that I would suggest that whichever sign the council, the standing committee decides to move first, that perhaps that particular moved sign might be considered to be placed down in the Kintore Reserve in an appropriate spot, and perhaps highlighted with lighting of an evening as an extra display in terms of tourism.
So you're talking about the one that would be removed?
The one that's been removed.
Yep.
Be relocated. To be considered to be relocated. I'm not telling the standing committee what they should do, but it should be one of the considerations at least.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Allgate. Councillor Page, you'd like a comment?
Yes.
You're not speaking against?
No, Mr. Mayor. In regard to this issue, if you do have a shortage of members on this committee, I know it's full at the moment, but I'd be happy to join that committee.
Quite happy to. Would you like to add the terms of reference to allow additional councillors if they're interested?
Yes.
Councillor Page, you're happy with that?
Yes, yeah. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
If any other councillors interested, please let the Mayor's office know. I'm sure that councillors wouldn't have a problem with that. All those in favour? Oh, speakers against. Is there any speakers against? Sorry. No speakers against. All those in favour? Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Page, Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Chandler, Councillor Deputy Mayor Hickey, and myself. Against, Councillor Turley and Councillor Brown. Thank you, councillors. Item 20, progress on the report detailing options for a truck wash. Do we have a mover for that? Moved Councillor Page, seconded Councillor Gallagher. Councillor Page?
No, this is long overdue, mate, so it's good to see that it's being dealt with.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Any speakers against? No speakers against. Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Declare it carried. Thank you, councillors. Just for the gallery, this is about the truck wash we've been trying to get for, I don't know, at least 20 years I know of, but probably well before that. I think the late Leanne James was on it well before that. So this is moving to a stage where we might actually get a truck wash. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Item 20, I said that was carried unanimously, didn't I? Yep. So thank you, councillors. Item 21, do we have a mover for item 21? Moved Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Chandler. Councillor Boland, you'd like to speak to it?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Reading through the report, this project looks absolutely wonderful. And it's great to see the traditional owners on board, or will be on board, engaging with them. After a workshop a couple of days ago with the options available for our traditional owners and what they could do with that parkland, and really teach their up and coming elders, the young children, about their culture and what it means to be the traditional owner of the land. I think it's a great project and it's going to be great for the community, and it'll be really good to see some of those ideas that were passed around the workshop the other day in regards to bush tucker and in Indigenous culture, tourism, being that space being used for that, because that'd be absolutely a wonderful outcome, I believe.
Thank you, Councillor Bowler. Any speakers against? Any comment?
A comment.
Councillor Brown?
Mayor Kennedy, I suspect that this is going to be a fairly lengthy process. I have some concerns about the fact that the proposal would involve using a piece of the regeneration area. I think that could be, create a precedent that we don't want. I think the region is a very precious part of Broken Hill. It was one of the important aspects of our heritage recognition. And I think, it's the thin edge of the wedge principle. It does concern me about that. I also note we all know the length of time it's taken to resolve a lot of these issues with DPIE and so on. I think the thought is, very commendable. I'm glad the traditional owners are enthusiastic about it, but I remain concerned about the region. I think if this does take place, I think we need to make it very clear that this would be a one-off, because otherwise there are lots of temptations. I know a few years ago there were proposals to extend beyond Brown Street, I think it is, whichever the last one is, into the regen area that would be, and I think that was pretty solidly resisted at the time, and I think these temptations can be quite dangerous. So I just like to include that in the comments. That's something I think that we need to watch.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So yes, it most definitely will come back to council well before, and as you said, it'll probably take a long time, and ultimately council may decide to move it not into the regen, but there's a few vacant blocks there and that sort of stuff. So it's not, I think in principle, we're talking about something that should and could happen, which will potentially reduce domestic violence and other potential things. Some of the people that have spoken to me, they want safe spaces and that sort of stuff, bush tucker and other areas where people can learn to do things. So there's a lot to talk about. It certainly wouldn't be something that is going to happen quickly, and it certainly wouldn't be something that didn't happen with engagement with the broader community. So your comments are well received, Councillor Brown. Any speakers against? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 22, community sector involvement. We have a mover for that. Moved Councillor Gallagher, seconded Councillor Chandler. Councillor Gallagher, you'd like to speak to that? No. Any speakers against?
I'll move an amendment.
You move an amendment, Councillor Allgate?
Do you want the amendment now?
Yes, thanks, Councillor Allgate.
That the three items already listed as recommendations and item 4 be added, that the matter be referred to the appropriate standing committee for consideration, that there be an item 5, that the mayor be authorised to liaise with appropriate community groups to address the homeless issue in the CBD.
Yep.
And that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. You got a seconder for your amendment? Seconded, Councillor Hickey. You'd like to speak to your member, Councillor Allgate?
Just to say that I think the original recommendation was fine, but there is there's an area that can be extended to incorporate the standing committee, because the relevant standing committee will be the committee that actually deals with it ultimately to bring down a decision to the council. And I think it's good that the mayor be authorised to liaise with the appropriate community groups like the police and whoever, to address the problem that a lot of the shopkeepers are currently experiencing with people sleeping in the streets.
Thank you, Councillor Aldgate. Any speakers against the amendment? All those in favour of the amendment? The amendment now becomes the motion. Before it's put, I'd just like to say, yes, I too have received quite a few complaints about the homeless, and what happens in this report, it hasn't addressed that. It also hasn't addressed the mayoral minute of 13 and 14, which was that we form a 355 committee for seniors and a 355 committee for the youth of the city. This was not it's fine to have these agencies, but the 355 committees that we're talking about were more about getting some of those senior citizens on board that could discuss. I've had, and Councillor Page was speaking to me today, talking about a few issues that had come up from some of the more senior citizens in our community. I have also been contacted about where they need ramps, where they need disabled parking, where they need. So these are the people that we once had a pensioners association that used to address a lot of these issues. It no longer exists. So this 355 committee we're talking about wasn't about the groups that look after the elderly. This was about getting senior citizens on a committee to talk directly to senior citizens and start getting some things done, such as the community gardens out the south. There's different things that young people have spoken about that they would like to get done. This is not about talking about the groups that are already formed. This is about council, and council's being directly involved with the stakeholders. So I hope that when it does go back to that appropriate committee meeting, that's discussed, and those 355 committees are formed. So, but that will be up to the actual committee to do that. But I thank Councillor Aldgate.
I might just based on what you said, Mayor Kennedy, it might be worthwhile to include in the amendment item 13 that's shown in the executive summary, and that is to actually form that 355 committee.
Okay.
So if we make that that particular clause, clause 13, if we make that item 6.
Yep. In terms of reference to be decided by the committee.
Yes.
Yep. And number 14 as well with the junior one.
Well, no, I thought that in item 14 that was covered by the fact that the matter be referred to the appropriate standing committee once the section 355 committee has dealt with it.
Oh, there is no 355 committee. That's the thing.
No, I just said if we add.
Oh, okay. No worries. Thank you.
As item 6, if we add clause 13 in the executive summary.
Okay. All right.
Is that acceptable to the
seconder? Who seconded it? Councillor Hickey. Yes, acceptable. Any speakers against that? No. All those in favour? Declared it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 23, which cash payments at council facilities. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Hickey. Deputy Mayor Hickey. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. For me, this is a very important one. This disadvantages the most disadvantaged in our community and the elderly. They still like to pay for cash. And really, I question the cost of how much it's going to cost to actually reconcile that cash. I don't believe that counting cash in an organisation the size of the City Council will reduce services across the city. I think it's part of the admin staff's job to reconcile the cash. So I really can't see it taking services away from the community. And other than that, as I mentioned, this is very, very important because a lot of our pensioners pay with cash. They've always paid with cash, and taking that option away from them certainly disadvantages them.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. We have any speakers against? Comment, Councillor Hickey?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. I think just in favour of what Michael said then, or Councillor Boland said then, there's probably a couple of people in this room old enough to remember when I was a bank teller when I came to Broken Hill, but it takes you about 7 minutes to reconcile and balance at the end of the day, and that was handling cash all day.
Yeah, millions, I'd say.
Millions.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Turley?
Trying to turn the microphone on. Is it secure? Is it actually about counting the cash, or is it about the security to pick up the cash? Sorry.
So the 20,000 is about picking up the cash, I'd say. Yeah. That's the cash, but the time, the 600 odd hours to do it would be about reconciliation and that sort of stuff. Yeah, yeah. So thank you, councillors. All those in favour? Declare that carried. Councillor Turley? Yep. Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 24. The section 3.5 terms of reference. Item 24, we have a mover for that. Councillor Page, seconder.
Seconded.
Councillor Aldgate, speak to that, Councillor Page, or happy with that? Happy with that. Any speakers against? All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 25, local traffic. You move that, Councillor Brown? Definitely. That's your thing. Move, Councillor Brown, seconded. Councillor Hickey. Any points of interest in there, Councillor Brown? No comment. No one against that. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Councillor Gallagher, this is your mover, is it? Councillor Gallagher moved, seconded. Councillor Hickey, quick speak to that, councillor. Well done, Councillor Nolan. Oh, sorry, Councillor Gallagher. All those in favour? No, that was Councillor Nolan's job, was to let us know everything. So thank you, Councillor Gallagher. Declare that carried unanimously. That's the end of the reports. We now go on to committee reports. Item 1, minutes of the Broken Hill Regional Art Gallery. We have a mover for that. Move, Councillor.
Move that way with an amendment to them.
Councillor Hickey.
I'd like to move that the Broken Hill Council Report 51/22 dated 4th of February 22 be received, that the minutes of the Broken Hill Regional Art Gallery Advisory Committee meeting held on the 30th of November 2021 be received and noted. And number 3, that the Broken Hill City Council rename the Broken Hill Regional Art Gallery to the Broken Hill City Art Gallery.
Seconded, Councillor Aldgate. Speak to it, Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. We had a presentation from the art gallery director last week, which was quite good, and we went through it all. We're all in the belief that the more you change of something, the less identity you receive. Some of the artwork, I think, is far too modern for a heritage city and doesn't represent our city as it should. And that seemed to be the belief of most of the people there. And so I'm quite happy to change it back to the Broken Hill City Art Gallery, but leave it at that.
Speakers against? Councillor Brown?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, I'm speaking really against the elimination, I suppose, of the proposal to introduce the new branding style. I think
Would you like to move an amendment, Councillor Brown? Then we can, well, then we can debate.
Whatever
Yeah,
point.
but then you'll be debating what you're moving rather than.
Yes, I do
Yeah.
acknowledge that, but I suspect it's not going to have a very
Still get it on the
long
books.
future, but I will move the amendment
Yeah.
which is the original recommendation.
Okay, moved Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Turley. You'd like to speak to your amendment, Councillor Brown?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy, I think the recent history of the councillors, has involved many changes of logos, styles of logos, and so on. I think, but very soon we will have a really new and exciting opportunity to have a very visual item along Argent Street and Patton Street, which is the new flags or whatever the signs, the new high tech signs, which will be a very visual way. And I think they need to be for the safety of motorists and so on. I think people who know about the importance of a visual symbol that's very quickly recognised. I think if we've got something colourful, and I must say I personally was very impressed with the fact that this will be a very colourful, or has the potential to be a very colourful brand. Once people, and I don't think it'll take long for people to recognise it and know what it means. It doesn't have to be used all the time, but I think it will promote a very positive image of the gallery. I think it's an evolving asset and a very important asset for the community. It's not like a museum with a fixed display. It's something that's evolving all the time. We have the very important art prizes and art competitions every year, which have put the gallery on the national map, really, and certainly has done a lot to promote our local art community with the Marama Art Awards. I think that I think it's very appropriate that we have a very visually exciting logo for the gallery that will be instantly recognised once people sort of get to know what it is, and particularly effective on the banners, which is the word I was looking for, that'll soon be there along Argent Street.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any speakers against the amendment?
I'll speak against the amendment.
Councillor Allgate.
I think Councillor Brown would expect this, given the briefing we had. I certainly don't agree with the banners. Certainly they're colourful. To me, they're meaningless. And it'll be interesting to get some public feedback when the banners go up, but they mean nothing to me. They don't display anything about councils, about the community's heritage. It was mentioned by one councillor at the briefing that he doesn't understand why all this arty-farty stuff is being promoted, and I'd have to agree. The thing is that I've always been a staunch believer that the council's original crest, that was developed many years ago, which clearly represents the heritage of Broken Hill, the mining industry, the pastoral industry, the Aboriginal movement, and I just forget what the other one is, so Councillor Brown might be able to help me there. But I believe that the council should have one crest, one logo. All of these units are still within the council. They still are the council operations, the art gallery, the Geo Centre, whatever. They still are council operations, and they should come under a standard council logo or crest, as far as I'm concerned.
Any speakers for the amendment? Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And can I say that we appreciated the presentation presented by our staff. And I'm kind of interested because it's a branding style and item 4 that we're talking about. And that branding style is really about the images and opportunities that can be used when we actually promote our art gallery. Now, I think back of when I was a young person and about how I was challenged about some of our more earlier artists, Pro Hart and his images, how people couldn't understand the colours of the blues and how amazing we are, how we appreciate that now. Hugh Schultz, my favourite artist, in fact, and Sam Burns, the images that we've seen then in the early days, people were getting their head around it to understand what is this? And it's about different images and styles that different people will appreciate. And I think for this branding image and style, it is about the marketing tool. It's not about what we represent. It's about how do we actually capitalise on our art gallery and how do we actually engage with our community across the community, not just one section of it. So I support Councillor Brown's amendment and would encourage people to have a look at this this particular in item 4, the branding style that's been recommended. Thank you.
Any speakers for the against the motion amendment? No?
Yes, Mayor Kennedy.
You're against the amendment?
Yes, I am.
Yep.
To me, it looks like change for the change's sake. I agree. The logo means nothing to me. I just had a quick look at the current logo. It's got the Broken Hill City Council logo on it. And then the Regional Art Gallery. That's very identifiable wherever you are, not just in Broken Hill, in the country or the world. The logo that's presented, yes, it may be modern, it may be trendy, but Broken Hill is a heritage listed town. We've got one of the oldest regional art galleries in Australia, and I think we need to promote that. And for me, it's a council asset, and it's not a council asset, it's actually a ratepayer's asset. And we represent the ratepayers and we represent Broken Hill. And to me, the art gallery needs that Broken Hill branding, the same branding that the Broken Hill City Council has. So it is identified as not a council asset, but a ratepayer's asset. That's how I feel about the logo. Yes, it's modern, looks funky, but for me, it just doesn't fit the feel of the city and or the art gallery.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Just a question before. It was stated that at the briefing that it would cost $36,000, but in the report it says about $800.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I believe the $800 would be in regards to changing any of the branding ongoing. The actual concept of going through the process was $35,000.
Okay, so $35,000 there, councillors. I know a few councillors asked that question, and that was one of the big concerns with the whole thing. So all those in favour of the amendment? Councillor Turley, Councillor Brown, all those against? Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Page, Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Chandler, Councillor Hickey, and myself. I declare the amendment lost. Right of reply, Councillor? No right of reply?
Yeah, actually, I have the right of reply.
Oh, you moved it, did you?
As the mover.
I thought.
Oh,
Councillor,
you move it.
you have a comment to make, Councillor Allgate?
No.
No. All those in favour?
Mr. Mayor, before you put the motion, can I just confirm it's Broken Hill City Art Gallery, not Broken Hill Art Gallery? Yep, thank you.
All those, so just so councillors understand, it's Broken Hill City Art Gallery, not Broken Hill Art Gallery. All those in favour? Councillor Gallagher, Councillor Page, Councillor Boland, Councillor Allgate, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Chandler, and Councillor Hickey, and myself. Against? Councillor Turley, Councillor Brown. I declare the motion carried. Item 2, do we have a mover? It's the minutes of the Picton Sports Ground. Mover.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Boland, all those in, speak to it, Councillor Allgate. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 3. Do we have a mover for item 3? Councillor Gallagher. This is minutes of the Friends and Fauna. Seconder, Councillor Brown. Speak to it, Councillor Gallagher. No speak. All those in favour? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. We have a mover for that. Move Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Page. Just before, do you want to speak to that, Councillor Allgate?
Oh, it's all in the report.
I was just hoping that you would add an addendum if you don't mind, Councillor Allgate. There was a question asked about the decommissioning of the Imperial Lake Wall. Council officers accompanied Mrs. Robinson around that site. It was made quite clear in the presentation from the member of public that they weren't consulted on the lowering of that dam wall. And if you would add to your motion that invite the general manager to contact the appropriate water authority, including the Dams Commission, to ask why wasn't there consultation, and is that the appropriate format?
Yes, so happy to include that in the resolution.
Happy to second that, Councillor Page. Any speakers against? All those in favour? Declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. Number 14, questions for the next meeting agenda. We have any? No one? Thank you for that, councillors. We now move to, before we move to confidential matters, can we just, someone, well, we did address the public question time, so we probably don't need to have one at the end. Confidential matters, someone like to move, we go into closed session. Mover. Move Councillor Page, seconded Councillor Jewett. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. There'll be 3 items discussed for the members of the community. It shouldn't take overly long, so if people do want to hang around,